Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of our new series, Living the Cult. My name is Alon.
I'm Elik.
And today we have with us Sahar. Sahar, you want to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sahar. I live in Be'er Sheva in south of Israel. I'm 22 years old and I work with kids. That's what I like to do. And recently I've discovered that I was in a cult of Zionism and I escaped it.
Okay, amazing. So welcome, Sahar. And Elik, you want to tell the audience just a few words about this series and about our guest today?
So we decided to do this series because, like Sar said, we all at some point in our life, like me and you, and also Sar, you will tell us about your story, that we were part of some cult that, because all of our society is part of it, we didn't recognize it. And it's not the only cult that the mass cult. Usually when people talk about cults, they think about small groups who are at the fringe of the society. But we discovered that Zionism actually operates very similar to cults that you have, and we discuss it, why Zionism in a cult, we discuss in our other podcast, One State Solution. We talk about it a lot, so you're welcome to view it on Alon's channel, The Hebrew Canaanite, and we will also talk about it today together. And maybe the viewers will get some sense why it is a cult. And we decided to start a series of people who broke free in their mind from this cult, but still didn't speak about it a lot in the open, in public. And we feel that in the process of living the cult, like speaking up to the world is a big, meaningful part, especially because speaking out is also a moral obligation when there's genocide and ethnic cleansing and oppression in the levels that happening right now, but also for our own self-healing process, right? Like there's something that when you keep it to yourself, it's very, very hard. I felt that it's like kind of eating me from inside when I was not speaking about it. And I was holding it inside me long time before I had the courage and the understanding. And it's not just courage, it's feeling that you cannot keep it inside anymore. It is courage, but also it's not just I'm brave, it's also so intolerable, right? So you have to.
Yes, let's talk about this as well.
Yeah. So today we have with us Sao, which we are friends from before. We met through an interview that Daniel Mate did with you and your partner Adam. And we became friends, and I thought that it will really cool to have you on. So
Thanks for having me.
sure, I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. So you want to tell us a bit about your background, how you grew up?
Sure.
Yeah.
I actually grew up in a settlement, like in the most southeast part of the the settlements. I don't know how
The
to
West
call it.
Bank, the West Bank, I
West
guess.
Bank. Thank you.
Yes.
So I grew up on the south of the West Bank. It was Palestinians were invisible to us. I saw them daily, but they're invisible to us. You could see them. I would go to, like, I went to school outside of the settlement, so I went through a checkpoint. And in that checkpoint, you see many Palestinians. Some are trying to cross just to get to work. So some are trying to sell foods to the settlers that are going to Israel. To me, they were just some people who I knew they were different than me. That's what I was told. And I saw that they were very poor, and that's all I knew. So you realize that the area where you live is like, English is difficult.
That's no problem. We will persevere together.
It's okay, thank you. You realize that it's in dispute. That was what I was trying to say. But you have no idea why. You don't know, like, I never thought that maybe, like, we were the bad guys in this thing. And you grew up mostly not thinking about it. It wasn't like I didn't grow up in a very violent settlement, even though all of them are, stolen lands, and that's violence in itself. But I didn't know what was happening around me at all. And when I met my partner, Adam, he wasn't so used to driving through the checkpoints. Like, for me, it was a daily thing. It was normal. You see that every day, and it's boring, and you don't care. And one of the first times that he came to visit me when I lived with my parents still, he was stopped by a Palestinian woman holding her baby. She physically stopped his car from going, and she screamed something in Arabic. He doesn't know Arabic, but he saw that she's in distress, and she was probably asking for help. And when he came over, he told me that, and it caught me off guard. I never imagined these people having feelings. Like, when you dehumanize a society so much, I just used to know that they were people who needed to go to work, and that's why I see them. And I didn't think of them as people who can feel something and can ask for help, or, like you and I.
Me and Alon had something about the conversation about the term dehumanization. So we said it's the first time I'm gonna interfere about it, and I'm not gonna leave him. So we're both into animal liberation too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what when we say dehumanization, it's something that we do to animals too. So I just want that we say they have no feeling. Animals care about their kins just as much as humans. I don't want to interrupt you, but I do, because it's part of the collective liberation is part of both of us agenda. But I understand your point. It's a remark.
I think if we just want to speak about language here for a moment, I think I've thought about this many times, and I think it's just objectification. All animals, all living beings have a subjectual feeling. They are subjects. And when we say dehumanization, what do we mean? We mean that we don't consider someone as someone. We consider them as something. And this is the process. So I prefer just the term objectification. Okay?
But I sometimes find myself using this term too, because I don't have a good substitution. But it was an opportunity to jump in with this remark. Okay,
but let's continue with your story.
Sorry.
No, thank you. That's true. I think that was the first time I considered Palestinians as objectives, as you said.
As subjects, we will say. Subjects.
Sorry, yes. And afterwards, I went on with my life, but I had a different feeling every time I had to cross the I forgot the word.
The checkpoint.
Checkpoint, yeah. And I started looking at the kids' eyes. There are many kids who try to sell bagels or sweets, like every day it's something else. And I started seeing them as kids. And I felt so sad for them that I just, I go to school, I cross, I know I have food in my bag, I know I have food at home, I know that I have everything that I need, and I never had to like stand in between like traffic and try to sell things. Later on, I also understood that they can only be like on that side of the checkpoint, and they keep seeing so many people passing, and it made me realize that they are like kept in a cage. And even like within the cage, I am free to be wherever I want, and they are not. And
I want to comment something about what you were saying.
yes.
One of the recurring themes that we talk about is how, in the eyes of the Jewish Israelis, the Palestinians basically do not exist. They are invisible. And it is, in some sense, more understandable when you're talking about people, Jewish people who live in predominantly Jewish areas, where they basically can spend, their entire lives without really seeing any Palestinians around them, or rarely seeing Palestinians around them. And especially they do not see Palestinians who are not citizens of Israel, Palestinians living in the West Bank, in Gaza, okay? So this you can understand, okay, in some sense. But what you're telling us now is that is that this psychological phenomenon, this thing that the cult creates, and we will explain again more about why it's a cult, but one of the ways that it operates is that it kind of influences your mind so much that you see something right in front of you and you don't register it. And what you're saying now is you were surrounded by Palestinians. You saw them all the time. And still, you could remain in this place where the Palestinians, they don't exist in a meaningful way. So I think maybe we should... Yeah.
Also, I used to pass by so many Palestinian villages, and I could see homes. I could see that it's a different, I would say, standard of building, because settlers have big, nice homes usually, and I could see that these are probably poorer households, and I could never tell myself, this is a Palestinian village. It would just be part of the view that you see.
Yes, the background,
Yeah, it's a background.
So I really want to ask you, Sahar, I don't know if you can answer this question, but I think it's important to try to think about it. How did you're obviously a very sensitive and kind person, okay? Obviously. And still, something in your upbringing could bring you to a place where you see people around you suffering and just they don't register. How did this happen? Do you have any idea? Do you remember something from your upbringing, from your education, things they told you or things they didn't? It's weird, right?
It's an interesting question. I'm trying to think about it all the time. It's really difficult to answer because it's like everything, your education blends into your personality, and you have memories that you can like put your finger on a situation specific that can like explain this. I could tell you that like growing up, whenever we went to, I don't know, a playground as kids, we would immediately leave if a Palestinian family came. My mom would get tense and she would tell my dad, okay, we go. We went back home. And so I never even had the chance to play with a neighboring Palestinian. That's just something that came to mind when you asked about it.
But there's also aspect that I think this shared of all of us, that Palestinians are the terrorists, right? They are the people who do violence. Because it's not, we don't have the context to
But
say.
I have to say something to that. That I knew, like, when I first started to realize, you know, where I live, what's going on around me, I was around 18. That's pretty old, like, and I knew there was terrorism. I knew I knew Palestinians are the ones who do terrorism, like, you know, in my mind, like back before I was anti-Zionist. And yet those people I saw in my mind not only were not people, they were not Palestinians. I could not tell myself these are Palestinians. They were like they were closer to nothing than to being Palestinians.
Can you tell us a little bit about like the political positions in your family? Like when people think of settlers, they think of when people outside of Israel occupied Palestine think of settlers, you know, this term, settlers. They think about maybe very violent, aggressive people. I don't know.
Yeah, I also want to say I grew up in a like liberal Zionist family, so to us the settlers were the bad guys that because of them we don't have peace. Like, and
Yeah.
you know, it's different approaches because I had to get over that to think, you know, it just I think in the like because I think the left-wing Zionism, if they're for them they
Liberal Zionists, that's more accurate.
Yeah, they extend all the bad stuff that they did also, and they throw it all of it on the settlers. Like, we never did anything bad, and they ruined the good old Israel.
It's easier that way, like for liberal Zionists.
Yeah.
For sure. It might be confusing for the viewers to understand this, but also within like the community of settlers, there are also like different approaches and different views. And so my family bought our house because it was cheaper to live there. They bought it in, I don't know how to say it in dollars, but they bought it in 300,000 shekels.
Okay, that's around, I don't know, $80,000 for our
very cheap 2-story house, you know.
Yes, that's very cheap. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, a very big like garden, and so that was their reason to live there. They didn't really have any passion, like views, like either way.
Yeah, this is something that people need to understand, because usually when people think about the West Bank settlers, they think about the ones who go and terrorize and have this messianic vision of, and most of them, I think people like your parents are the majority, right? Of the
I think so. From like what I see, we are like very big communities of people who are fairly liberal, I would say. And there are also like very small communities of the violent settlers. that I also personally know a few that are like the big stars of the Masaferata. So
yes, I think we should generalize this understanding because, like Elik and I speak a lot about our families and how they got to how they arrived in Palestine, or whatever you want to call it, how they arrived in Palestine. They thought of it as Eretz Israel, as Israel, and I think the majority of people who came here to Palestine, Jews who came here to Palestine, they weren't really too into this Zionist ideology. They were just people who had it rough, because of some stuff that happened in the 1940s, 1930s, 1940s. Some bad stuff happened, and they had it rough, and they were looking for a place to live where they can have, basic security and resources and a nice house and everything that they need. And the Zionist project, which is, I think, one of the reasons that we call it a cult, right? Because how do cults work? They go, oh, you have it hard, right? Come join us and we will give you everything that you need. You are marginalized from society. You are rejected from society. Come join us and we will give you everything you need. But this is, of course, a deal with the devil, right? So we will talk about how it's a deal with the devil later. But my point is that people come because they have it hard and they want to go to a place where they have everything they need, where they feel like they belong. And this is why most of the people who emigrated, the Jews who emigrated to Palestine, did it not because they were so, brainwashed Zionists, right?
But I think it has this effect that after you're in, you have to adopt the ideology.
Yeah. Also because you had to adopt the personality, you had to be like the Tzabar, as we call it, the like Israeli person who, I don't know, does agriculture and I don't know.
Yes, the image of the liberated Jew, the new Jew,
strong Jew, the new Jew, exactly.
Yes.
So this ideology is a part of it for sure. So you adopt it as part of the personality that you have to carry it yourself in order to be a part of this.
So this is exactly, again, how cults work. They say, come, join us. You will get everything you need. You will get to feel like you are part of something. And you need to pay a small price. And the small price that you need to pay is that you have to collaborate with everything that the cult demands. And if you do not collaborate, if you do not cooperate, then you will be rejected from the cult. And I think we can see this in the grand scale of all the settlers who came to the Jewish settlers who came to Palestine from, the first half of the 20th century until today. And we can see it also in your story that, people who were living in Israel proper, which is, we understand that this is problematic within itself, but maybe it's not as problematic as going and living in the West Bank. It's a discussion. But the reason that your family went to live in the West Bank wasn't that they were, such extreme Zionists, but just because it was easier and cheaper. But I want to ask you, Sahar, if the very fact that you lived in a settlement influenced the politics and the psychology of your family and maybe also you personally.
I think so, yeah. Because for my family, my parents grew up in Beersheba, which is not far from where I grew up. It's like 40 minutes away. And I feel like when you move like into the West Bank, you have to adopt some different views because you're like, I guess they knew better where they're going, better than I knew when I was just born there. And so that the people you see are Palestinians, even if you don't think of them as people. And you know that the area you live in is in dispute. to say the least. And I couldn't tell you like how they were before that because I was born in the settlement, but I could see, I think mostly in my mom, a lot of fear, and like they were, I think, trying to be strangers to the Palestinian community like as much as they could. And also they always like tried to tell me that that it's a different, that the area we live in is good, because I was already about 16 or 17 years old when my dad told me about this. Like he tried to explain to me that where we live is the safest place in the West Bank we could live because the Palestinians here have so much to lose. Like we let them work for us so that if they do something wrong, they have to pay and like not get their jobs. And that was the point before I left Zionism. That was the point where I understood most in my mind, in my perspective back then, that I felt that I understood most where I live.
That's very interesting because Zionists tend to behave as if they don't understand the situation. They don't understand that the Palestinians live under oppression. But then when they tell you what's going on, like if you just like listen to the words that they're saying, what they're saying is, we are oppressing the Palestinians. I mean, they would not like raise it in this way.
Yeah.
But basically, what your father
we
said,
are on top, they are at the bottom, and they depend on us. And if we decide to cut off their living, but it's I sometimes people tell me like, what do they want? Why do we need to supply them with water and food? Like it's this, how do you say? It's like
an argument.
Yeah, it's an argument they say, but it's other way around, right? When you occupy people, you come to a situation that you
projection.
Yeah, and they're not independent, that they don't have their own economy and their ability to develop their own economy. So we have, and then like it's weird diversion or
inversion. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go a little bit deeper into this subject. I think the subject that we raised about how the settlers, the so-called settlers, are demonized and by the liberal Zionists, okay? By liberal Zionists who are, in their own minds, not settlers because they live in Israel proper. Look at how many air quotes I need to do because the language is so distorted, right?
Yes.
So many air quotes. This is what fascism creates. This is what cults create, that everything you say is tainted and you have to put air quotes on every single word that you say. But I think we need to like deconstruct this kind of thing more because liberal Zionists have this narrative that they are the good guys and that the settlers are the bad guys, and I don't know. I want to deconstruct it more. Sahar, can you maybe say some stuff to the liberal Zionists who think that the settlers are the evil ones?
It's a difficult, like it's such a huge thing to deconstruct.
Yes.
I think that first of all, as I said before, it's just the liberal Zionists say that because it makes them less at fault, or even like not at fault at all, which is of course easier like for their moral views of themselves, like I'm the good person, I don't do anything wrong, like it's their problem. And I do think that the settlers are maybe more at fault of what's going on than the people living in proper Israel. But it's also like, it's difficult to say. Like most.
Yes, I think it's a difficult subject to deconstruct, but that's exactly why I want to press on this. This point. Yeah.
most of my experience growing up didn't feel different. I didn't view myself as like different than my liberal Zionist friends. I felt the same way, you know, gay rights and everything that we tell ourselves we care about, because we have to find something to morally take upon us. I didn't feel like that different.
Mhm, mhm.
I would like deeper questions, more specific, so that I could like unpack smaller cases. If you have different questions.
Alec, do you have any more specific questions that we can go into?
I thought we can also a bit go on with the process that you and also Adam had, because I think you were talking about it.
Yes.
That's true. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, we kind of I think we can, because it's a process that started and it's still ongoing, right? So maybe we can
Mhm.
like you talked about this woman with a baby, and then what
Yeah.
happened afterwards? You started having more question and
Yeah. Like right afterwards, I started feeling guilt. I think that's the point where I started to realize like where I live and what type of life we inflict on the Palestinians. And I told you about the checkpoint. Every time I crossed it afterwards, I would buy something from the little kid who tries to just make enough money to eat. I would, if I didn't have like change, I would smile at the kid, like kind of like I'm sorry, kind of smile. Small things that I tried to tell myself, okay, I understand there's something wrong going on here, but I cannot be like feeling at fault of this. I had to like make myself feel better. And about, I don't know, just a few months later, I joined the army,
Mhm.
which made the process a lot more difficult because when you wear the army uniforms, you like they tell you that now you have to protect, you know, Israel, and that I don't know, I felt like I went maybe backwards in the beginning. I was very proud to wear my uniforms. I felt that it gave me power. My job in the army, I was a teacher for kids who made Aliyah in Israel, who just immigrated here. I taught them Hebrew.
What's called teacher soldier?
Yeah, it's called
It's an
teacher.
oxymoronic term.
Yeah,
Teacher soldier. Decide what you are. A teacher or a soldier. You cannot be
you
both.
have to be
I'm not
both.
talking about you. I'm talking about the system. You know.
No, of course, that's how the system does.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt at first. I felt like maybe more leaning. I can't say I felt right wing, but in my perspective now, I was leaning towards that. And then after I finished like my training, my basic training, I started to come back to my senses.
Let's try to specify this more. Do you remember like certain things that maybe like in basic training they do like an indoctrination process, right? They tell you all kinds of stuff. So do you remember like specific things that you were told in the basic training that and how you thought about them and how it influenced your opinion?
One very terrifying thing I was told was that now wearing uniforms, I am a moving target. And that makes you fear for your life. And I think from that fear grew, you know, that the thing I was trying to describe. I was trying to make myself feel more powerful because I was afraid. They tell you all kinds of things in basic training. You know, even just the experience of having to shoot a gun at 18 years old, whether you like it or not, you know, being taught that it's a necessity here to know how to do this, like that does enough for you.
So I just want to be transparent with the audience. All three faces that you see on your screen now, we were all in the Israeli army, okay? All of us were drafted into the Israeli army. By law, in retrospect, we had some kind of choice. We could refuse, we could go to military prison, we could make trouble, okay?
Yeah, I wish I had more awareness back then,
Me
'cause
too.
especially now when there is the genocides going on, but also learning about before, it's like some of the things I feel most ashamed of is being part of that organization. But
Yes, but we need to emphasize that there is a reason why they don't take you to the army when you're 30. There's a reason why they take you to the army when you're 18, because when you're 18, you're still a teenager. You're still young.
Also
You're
go
still...
through the Israeli school system
Yes.
that it does everything in its power to indoctrinate you and make you think that, you know,
and
all
the
the things that the cult teaches you.
and
And
the
so,
job that you did and I did as well, because
You were also a teacher soldier?
I did the
Yeah.
same. It's part of that indoctrination, right? We went with uniforms.
yeah. And by the way, I want to say something about that.
Mm.
A few months into my service, I understood, sorry, how fucked up it is to be a soldier going to a high school every day. And I was expected to teach kids that they should join the army. I was expected to help them prepare for it. And they were kids. And I told my commander that I want to do it. I told her that I will teach the new immigrant kids Hebrew because I feel like it's necessary. No one else has this job to teach them. But other than that, I was supposed to like make, you know, big boards and like join the army. That's the process. Come ask me questions if you need. I told them I will not do that. Everything that was related to the army that I was expected to do, I very soon into my service refused to do. So, and that made me feel a little less guilty, even though I still had to wear uniforms and like in a school, and that's enough. Like, that's bad enough as it is.
But I must say that it's not easy to come to your commander and say, I'm not doing this in a very hierarchical and violent system, because they don't care about what you want to do or not want to do, right? Like,
yeah, no, they didn't care. But I couldn't like live with this feeling that, you know, even I was still, I think, a Zionist back then. But I felt like I have to let these kids choose and be kids as much as they can within the school system, which is already, as we said, fucked up.
But when you were in basic training, did they kind of make you think that what you were doing was, you know, a good thing? You're helping society, right? That's how they present it, right?
Of course, I have to be like the representative of the army for those kids, and they tell you that you should be proud to do that. You know, that I don't know, that like me being there will make maybe the process of joining the army a bit easier for those kids. And you know,
and they don't let you ask, maybe the army shouldn't exist. Maybe if it's so hard, maybe it just shouldn't exist. We need to bring people to make it easier for them, right?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's all so many things are built on that logic that the system exists So now let's try to make it easier. It's like, I had many friends who said there is occupation, so we have to go and be there and
Be
be
the good guys.
the nicer soldier.
Yes, change the system from within.
Yeah, and the Israeli society allow some, not a lot, some criticism, as long as your conclusion is that I'm joining and participating and try to change it from
Yeah.
within.
I can't help but tell about something that I saw yesterday. There is a Facebook page an Israeli Facebook page called Politically Correct. It's a radical feminist, not really, radical feminist Facebook page, but it's still an Israeli page, so it is a Zionist page. And they wrote this article about there's a new show called Adolescence on Netflix, really good, watch it. And it talks about like masculinity and how difficult it is to be a man in today's world. But that's not the point. The point is that they took it to speak about our society. And they said that we should acknowledge that men in our society have to serve in the army, and they have to put on the masculine, persona when they are in battle, and we have to give them, when they come back, we have to give them a way to process their feelings so that they do not, continue this masculine, take this masculine mask and bring it back here. And there's a lot to talk about this, but my comment was, maybe we should just not send them there. And I think that this is something that is, unthinkable for most Zionists, that maybe the army should not exist, or at least not be, something that everyone goes to, and everyone, like, this is something that is beyond the scope of what they are willing to think about.
It's unimaginable.
Yes, exactly.
Not sure. And it reminds me of, I heard someone say once, and I think it makes a lot of sense, that once you inflict violence towards any living being, you would be able much easier to do that on someone else.
Yes.
So I feel like that's, if we go a bit off topic of my upbringing, that's the thing I think that really scares me now, is to think about all those soldiers that some of them are my family, some of them are my neighbors, they're all around us, that are now in Gaza doing unimaginable stuff to people and all living creatures. And they will come back one day to our society with the ability to do things unimaginable, violent things, with much more easier.
Yes, scary. Yes, once you break that seal, that you can just inflict violence, then why wouldn't you inflict violence in other situations? It's much easier to justify. And I think I need to say about this feminist, it's bothering my mind since yesterday, that it's so weird that feminists talk about toxic masculinity, but then they're absolutely okay with the toxic masculinity that is going in uniform with weapons to a war, whatever. You think it's a war, okay, whatever. But going to a war with uniforms, with weapons, and killing people, that's not toxic masculinity to you? Are you not against this? So this is just the weird face of Zionist feminism. It's something that is very, very weird to me.
Can I add news about it?
Yeah. Adam will pop in.
I just want to add a small thing, and I go because I don't want to take your time.
Okay, so guest appearance from Adam.
Maybe we'll do an episode with Adam as well. some point.
Okay, so to our audience, this is Adam. He's Sahar's partner, and we will do an episode with him very soon.
So thank you. I couldn't stop myself because you talked about politically correct, the page, the feminist page. So yesterday, like their last post from yesterday is about a testimony, like it is a testimony of a woman, a Palestinian woman.
Wow.
So I was a little bit surprised, like I thought like good surprised. Like I thought, okay, finally you have something, even if small, in those kind of pages. And the comments are just like, it's crazy. Like I counted the likes, like, and you can see the amount of angry and laughing emojis. It's the same amount, almost the same amount as the likes, like, or the compassionate more emojis. So that's all. Like, even if you try as a page to talk differently, they'll probably like just move to another group. So that was my small trivia. So I go back to
Thank you, Adam, for this contribution. Now, Sahar, let's go back to your story of stepping out of the cult, and maybe you can tell us more about, because now you're talking about you're in a certain place where you're doubting the cult, and there's like this inner struggle. But you're still a Zionist. So maybe you can tell us about, I think it's very interesting how this process happens, that going from being in the cult, calling yourself a Zionist and believing in the Zionist narrative and in this whole story, and just going to the other side and like being like, oh, this is totally fucked up, completely fucked up. So can you explain to us how this happened as much as you understand?
Of course. While explaining this, I have to give a huge credit to Adam, who, while I was going through this process, he was also going through this process, and he's a very, he reads a lot. And everything that he reads, he tells me. And I think that has a great, that affected me greatly.
I must say that Adam is a source of information for me too. So, yeah.
And while I was still a soldier, he also got in touch with Noam Chomsky after reading his book. No, before reading his book. Yeah. And he and two of his friends interviewed him for a university project that they did for their college. And I took upon myself the job of translating it. And that means that I watched an hour of Noam Chomsky about 7 times.
Yes.
So I think all
crash course in anti-Zionism.
Yeah, and you need to. We have so much indoctrination, so you need to counter that with like repeating.
Yes, repeating the process again and again. Repeat is needed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this, and also Adam's readings, and also things that I read myself while still being a soldier, really affected me. And then there was, one of all of those rounds of war with Gaza while I was still a soldier, which means that we heavily bombed Gaza.
Yes.
For a few days. And I think that shifted something in me. I was suddenly like this wave of violence happened when I was more aware of everything. And I saw horrible pictures that I couldn't imagine could ever happen. And I went, because I was working in a school, we basically had a few days off while this happened, because there was no school. I went back afterwards and I spoke with my friend, and I told her, how can you think it's okay? How can you think it's normal? This is crazy. This is maniac. This is like everyone here are so crazy, and I remember just being so angry, and like I think that was a point where I was like, it can't go on anymore. You know, this is a crazy system. Both the school system and the army are crazy systems. I'm within both systems. I felt like I'm losing my mind. And from this point on, I think every time I had to go back home to my settlement wearing my uniforms, I suddenly felt so ashamed. And also, I served in Beersheba, so there are also many Palestinians here and many Bedouins here. And whenever I, in uniforms, came close to a Palestinian person, I felt like I have to apologize to them. And I just felt horrible with myself. I couldn't, you know, every day I came back home, I basically ripped the uniforms off and counted the days as any Israeli soldier does until I'm off duty, but just so that I can stop being, I felt a walking occupation.
Yes. Usually, soldiers in the Israeli army, I had, I think, 5 or 6 different charts that counted the days until I was discharged from the army. But to be honest, it was out of very selfish, motivations that I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't want people to tell me what to do. And this is a shared experience to many, many Israeli soldiers. But what you're telling now is something that I think is different. That you wanted to be discharged so that you don't feel this shame anymore, right?
Yeah.
Shame and guilt. Yeah.
Yes. But I think like I think I also felt the shame. I wasn't as far like as I am now with my opinions, but I think this thing that Israel takes people and they make them a tool, and you're walking and you understand this is what I am now, and it's both humiliating for you and it's both horrible, like what what are you being part of? And yeah, I felt at many points in the army I hated myself for not having the guts to tell them I'm not part of this, I'm leaving. And I don't know, I guess sometimes you just have to accept that you have the level of ability to
We just have to acknowledge that statistically, how many people refuse to serve in the Israeli army? It's 0.01%. I'm guessing, but this is the kind of it takes a very, very unique person that at age 18 you have the awareness, the courage, the connection to yourself, the fortitude, the moral fortitude to go against a huge system that is backed up completely by your entire society and say, no, I will not do it. I think it's very, very difficult. And again, statistics proves how difficult it is.
That's true. Yeah.
But also, I think to give you and us the credit, also to come to this realization is also rare statistically, and especially you when you were still in the army and growing up in settlement. I think it's a big thing, and it should be appreciated. But,
thank you.
Yeah. All right. So you went. So when also something I wanted to say that I think what made me also like de-Zionize myself, or whatever we call it, is the reaction of the people, right? When you see something horrible, like what happened, I guess it was 2021, right? The round of violence that you were talking about.
I think it was 2022.
There are so many. You see, it's like so normal.
Yeah. Like there was another one, I think later, just a few months before October 7th.
Yes.
Wow.
when I was still a soldier.
Yes, I think it was May of 2023. There was another round.
Really?
Mhm.
Yes,
Didn't
yes, I
remember.
remember it because there were rockets shot at Tel Aviv as well in that time.
But the feeling that you like this is the moments that you understand like you're part of something, right? Because it's like you feel you see people, kids being murdered, and then you see the reaction of the people, and they're like, okay, there's something fucked up about
Yeah.
the society. And so how did it go on, like from there? It was
I just want to ask Sahar one question before that. You said that you read a lot of texts that helped you, deprogram yourself. Do you remember like specific texts that you can maybe recommend to our audience and mention, or maybe some specific things that you read, if you remember?
There were many articles in the local call. I used to
972 magazine, it's called.
Yeah, that's true. The English version.
Yes.
I used to read like tens of them a week. Like
Yes, yes. Yes, now I feel I remember something myself, which is very parallel. When I was a soldier, which was around like 18 years ago, let's say 17, 18 years ago, I discovered a blog. The blog was run by a guy named Yossi Gurvitz. He is no longer with us. He passed away a few years ago. And I don't know if he defined himself as an anti-Zionist, but he was the most critical voice that I heard against Israel and the Israeli army and the Israeli government until that point, by far. Like there was no comparison. And I remember that when I found this blog, I started reading so much. I think again, like you said, like dozens of his posts every week, and there were hundreds of them. There was enough, maybe thousands of them. There was enough to read, and I think this was also part of my process. So, yeah, maybe these things that people put out and they don't know what effect that these things will have. But yeah, it has some effect. People like us find it, and then we use it to
and maybe
learn.
somebody will find this in
Yes,
there
exactly.
too and say, oh
Yeah.
wow,
I
she
think
did this
that's why
process, maybe I can do this process too.
that's why I'm here. I feel.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
So now maybe let's continue the story. You can tell us about more moments or processes that you went through.
Mm-hmm. So right now in the timeline of my story, we're already, I think, only like 2 years ago. So there isn't like, a lot of length to go until the 7th of October. But I basically, I tried to do the least amount of army stuff while I was still there. And at some point I found a 12th grader in the school I was teaching in was also starting to be anti-Zionist. And we formed a really nice friendship, in which I would tell him things that I know. We would rant as much as we can about what's going on. We would, and I felt pretty good about myself being a soldier and not being afraid to speak publicly in school about like being anti-Zionist. That was the first time that I said those words about myself, and I was wearing uniforms publicly. So this kid also joined the army. We lost touch, but I hope he will, recover.
Maybe he will be one of our future guests if we can
I hope so.
locate him and talk to him. That would be really interesting.
I
what
hope
his
so.
process is. But maybe the basic training and the propaganda and indoctrination that you experience when you go to the army that you described to us, maybe they pulled him back. Maybe the 7th of October made him, sober up, so to say. Maybe we don't know. We don't know. It's really difficult. Even if you start the process of
Yeah.
leaving the cult can pull you back. It's very powerful.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very powerful because also people need to understand that, like in different cults that are usually like smaller groups of communities, you can say, when you go out of the cult, you live in a different community, you live in a different place. In this cult, when you go out, this goes out of the cult, but you are still within it. I work every day teaching young kids, toddlers, and we are like approaching now, the Independence Day of Israel, the Nakba Day, and we have to sing songs and say happy birthday to this beautiful country, wave the flag, and
Know what you're gonna do? Like you have to pretend, or can you tell them I'm not participating? How is it?
so I was a coward today, and I didn't wave the flag. I didn't sing with them, but I was there. And I am planning on telling the very Zionist teacher of the gun that I
Gun
cannot.
is kindergarten. Gun is kindergarten for our.
Sorry, yes, I have American friends, and I just tell them gun, and they
Yeah.
understand. Gun is kindergarten.
Yeah.
Sorry. That I have to tell. I think I will tell her tomorrow that I cannot wave the flag. I will not hold it, and I will not celebrate the birthday of Israel. It will be very confusing for the kids, so I have to, you can't really resist what's going on, but
Yeah, because maybe
not
they
for
will ask you, why are you not doing it? And what do you tell them? It's hard situations here. It's not
Yes,
yeah.
being anti-Zionist inside the Zionist cult it puts you in daily dilemmas. Basically every single moment of your existence is a dilemma about how much to say, how to say it, if to say it. Maybe just keep silent so that you don't go into trouble and don't make trouble. It's really, really difficult.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And you also have to see the indoctrination, and even if you don't take part in it, you have no ability to stop it, and you have to watch it and see how they are doing it to the kids, and you know that you don't have the power to tell them something different because you will be probably fired from your work or what.
Also, if I will not be fired, those kids are 2 years old. They have the rest of their 16 years still in the system to go through. I'm just this small. They will probably not even remember me.
Yeah.
And there are also those moments that we have here every day where there is an airplane flying above us on its way to murder other kids.
I
And
have a song about
Yes,
it.
Elik has a song about this.
amazing. I would love to hear that. And just being with kids who, were in this society born in the right side, who are not being bombed. And you have to teach them that this is not a terrifying sound of the airplane flying above them, that this is a friendly airplane. Just everyday things that are so difficult, like to go through.
Yeah.
So because you said this, I was reminded of an experience that I had when I was 13 years old. Okay, I was in this gifted kids program, and we had a physics class, and the teacher taught us about relativity, the theory of relativity, and the lesson every lesson was like, I don't know, an hour and a half long, but probably an hour in, he would be like, okay, that's too much. I can't think about physics anymore. Let's talk about stuff. So the last half hour of every lesson was dedicated to all kinds of stuff. This was 25 years ago. And looking back, Tal was his name. Tal was the first vegan person that I knew. And I remember distinctly that in one of the lessons, the subject that he raised was the subject of, the treatment of non-human animals. Now I speak about it like this. And he didn't even talk about veganism. He was very, very careful. Okay, he was very careful because he didn't want to ruffle too many feathers. But he talked to us about animal experimentation for like cosmetics industry. And I don't know what exactly happened in this conversation. I don't remember all the details, but I do know that that evening I went back home and I told my mom, please, whenever you buy shampoo or soap, make sure that there is like this the rabbit symbol on the back that says this was not tested on animals. And looking back, this was a very major step in my process of liberating myself from human supremacy and carnism. So what is my point? That maybe, Sahar, you don't know, okay, they are 2 years old, okay. Maybe you can't say too much. But I think that planting the seeds of doubt, of looking at things in a different way, I think that this is still possible. Do you have like experiences of trying to do such things, or is it something that that is too difficult at this point?
Communication is different with toddlers. There's just learning, to speak. I do teach them to ask questions on whatever comes up, because I think it's important. Even if we're not like talking about Zionism, I think every person should be able to question everything that is around him. And that's something that I try to do with them. And also maybe that's like more off topic, but I try to make sure that they know when they say something feels good, so it can continue, and when they say stop, you stop. And I feel like that can also give them a sense of self and a sense of I'm important.
I don't feel like that's off topic.
Yeah, me too. I thought about it. That one of the things that's most important, like, I think before we learn to be oppressors, we are being oppressed in many ways. And part of it is not learning to put your own boundaries. And especially when you're a kid, like you're kind of being treated as property. And I think it's really important.
Yes, the cult really wants to penetrate into your mind, into your soul, into your psyche, and control you. And I think that people who are connected to their own core, to their own morality, to their own conscience, are much harder to control. And I think that what you are doing, it may be like abstract or like simple, but I think it's like, when I think about people who resist cults, who resist fascism, who resist systems of control and oppression, I think of people who are connected to themselves. I think of people who are connected to their morality, to their feelings. We had an episode of the Yalla podcast where we talked with Dan and Ayelet. And one of the subjects that came up in this episode, that when you listen to your body, then something changes. That your body is like the first agent that tells you that something is wrong. And I think that if you teach children to listen to what feels good and what does not feel good, but in a deep way, and be connected to their own feelings, then maybe when some douchebag tells them that they should hold the gun and shoot the gun, maybe it will feel bad to them, and maybe they will be more connected to that feeling, and maybe this will contribute to the process of liberating themselves from this horrible place.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really important. We left off with me being still a soldier, meeting a 12th grader kid and talking to him. which was the first time I was told that I am anti-Zionist. Really soon later, I was discharged from the army, and at this point, we are in August of 2023. So it wasn't long until everything collapsed, around us. Those 2 months I spent like not thinking about anything, mostly. Still reading, still participating in, conversations, trying to convert a friend, as I was doing like during the army. And then we are in the 7th of October. And I don't think anyone can say that they were not at some level surprised by that, how big it was. And I was scared to my life because I just understood where I live. I also just started reading about Masafer Yatta, the Palestinian community that I live in, about, what my side inflicts on them, and I knew
So
that
just to make it clear for our audience, the settlement that you live in is adjacent to Masafer Yatta, to this community of Masafer Yatta. Okay, very interesting. Okay.
And after understanding what kind of horrible occupation we inflict on them, I knew it wouldn't be surprising if something horrible happened to Israelis settlers where I live, to my area. I could not even leave my bedroom to go downstairs because we have this big window, watching an open space, and my anxiety just saw raids of angry people who I wouldn't be blaming them for doing crazy things. And so I was really scared. And of course, as we all remember, really soon later, we started carpet bombing Gaza, the hell out of Gaza. And it was things that I've never seen before. I don't think it was like those images. I don't think anyone of us ever imagined that could happen. And that was so heartbreaking to watch. It still is, obviously. And at that time, I was still living with my parents. And I think the 7th of October, as it did to many people, turned them more right-wing than they were before. And me already identifying myself as an anti-Zionist, watching the horrors that they are now happy to see, I lost my mind, basically. We can all, I think, talk about how crazy and difficult this time was. Really soon later, I left my parents' house. I just couldn't take it anymore. I had so many fights with them, trying to tell them, like, the fuck, murdering kids is not the answer. It doesn't make us more secure. It's crazy that you say to me that it's okay to do that. I even at some point, I tried to shake them out of it, and I told them that I would go and, kill myself if they don't, and of course that was just to try to tell them, look at what's happening. When all of that didn't work, I moved out.
I think there's something to notice here. I think on the 7th of October, if I look at Israeli society, Jewish Israeli society, if you were inside the cult, then the 7th of October, what happened on the 7th of October would make you go even deeper into the cult. I think it's like, I don't know of any story of someone who was not, in some sense, stepping out of the cult, but still in the cult and didn't go deeper into the cult. It's a universal phenomenon. But I think if you were in the process of stepping out of the cult, then the 7th of October was something that could help you even like accelerate this process of stepping out of the cult. It's like a dichotomy. And I think that the crisis that you felt with your family was exactly an expression of this. You were in the process of stepping out, so this threw you out even more, but then they were still deep inside, so they went even deeper inside, and this created such a chasm between you that it's
But what
impossible
was to me also interesting seeing people who were like, I had a friend, for example, who was voting Hadash, like
Hadash is like the Arab Jewish communist party in Israel.
And the moment 7th of October, like she regressed. And then when she spoke, you felt the most like basic truth that you are being propagated as Zionists. Like, we're Jews, we're hated everywhere. Like you hear just everything that in the most basic form came out. And
like complete regression.
Yeah, and the Palestinian were the Nazis. It's like all the stuff that they're put to you in the head, like suddenly, and it is a regression. Like there's no way, and it's regression also to a childish state, because you're not thinking rationally. Because like what's rational about carpet bombing Gaza as a reaction? What's and people still think in some way it's also from selfish reasons. It's like not But,
okay, so tell us more about the crisis with your family. What happened there?
After a few really difficult fights, and I have to also say, I never fight with anyone. I rather sit in silence than ever speak up like this. It puts me in so much stress that it's unbearable. So after those, I think, 2 weeks of unbearable fights, I moved out. And Adam used to live like next to the Gaza Strip, so he moved in with his parents and I moved in with them, and we were still fighting there, but at least it wasn't my parents, so it's less heartbreaking to experience. That was like difficult 3 months, I think, that we lived there. And now we are at the time that we talked to Daniel Mate and that we met you guys, and like that's where we stand in my story now. And I think since then it's all of the same, like trying to speak up whenever you can, still feeling really, really scared whenever you're close to telling someone your opinion. And I also come from like my bigger family. My dad's siblings are more right-wing radicalists, fascists than he is. And those were people who I was very, very scared of. Like I had nightmares of them finding out that I'm anti-Zionist, and who knows, what could have happened. And on one of the holidays, a few months ago, I visited one of them, and we were all sitting together. And as they always do, they argued with my dad. And then they put me in the same box as my dad, and saying you want a hostage deal, so you have the same opinions as your dad.
So just to make it clear, so because your dad is a liberal Zionist, he's too leftist for his family, right? He is the black sheep of his family, right?
Yes.
The one who dares challenge the cult so much that he is a liberal Zionist, right?
Yeah.
So I think our audience needs to understand this. That the cult, I don't know, I have like this image in my mind now of like this thing that pulls you down all the time. If you don't want to exterminate the entire population of Palestinians here, then those who do will call you a traitor and crazy and naive.
Yeah.
If you support the genocide, if you're someone who supports the genocide but doesn't want to exterminate the entire population of Gaza, then you will find someone who is like on your left, someone who is like, yeah, we need to bring the hostages back, and then you will shame them, and it's like a whole chain
It's also
of each person shaming the ones who are not deeply inside the cult, not loyal enough to the cult in their opinion.
But also, like, I think for them, right, like your father won't say because they're killing civilians in Gaza. It's a hostage deal, because the hostage situation now is the...
Yeah, no, I have to say, my father doesn't care about Palestinian lives. So that's where he is. And then when they argued and I tried to step into the argument, they told me like I am probably the same opinions as my dad, and that triggered me. I was like, no way. And also I had a few drinks, so that helped me build up the courage, and I suddenly found myself talking about Palestinian kids being murdered in Gaza, about how wrong it is to carpet bomb, entire population, about how vengeance is never the answer. And it just went on like this, and all I got back was looks of like, you're such a naive young kid.
I have to add something.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I just couldn't. I have to, about her father. I'm sorry. I promised myself I would not interrupt you. But because I know
you
her...
have one last shot.
one last shot.
Yes.
Her father is the most sensitive person that I know. He cries of any kind of suffering that he sees. Like, he's more sensitive than me. So for him to say stuff like, I don't care about the kids in Gaza, you have to understand how complicated is, like, you can call it the Zionist mind. Because if he would be like inside a neighborhood in Gaza, and he would see like a kid crying for help, he would go crazy to save his life. So you have to understand there is something like that you can be far away from that stuff and you can say those stuff, but we're talking about like such a sensitive soul. Like, I love him with all my heart, and I know many people like him, but he's a great example of this.
Thank you for
I just
that.
had to add this because it's really important. It's something that the extreme right-wing type of Zionist, that I think they don't have it sometimes, but I'm not sure. So
all my life, it's sometimes, I see someone with a kind face that I like and sensitive, and then the shit that goes from their mouth is like, yeah, it's like I feel this is the paradox all my life, I think, living here.
Yeah, so thank you.
Okay, Adam, that was strike 2. Strike 3, and you're out.
And then we don't do interview with you at all.
The thing
No, but I want to comment about this. That there's something... Of course, the main victims of these situations are the Palestinians. But another form of being a victim of this cult is being a good person, a sensitive person, a sensitive soul, and being captured by the cult, and the cult again operates you and makes you do and say things that you would never, ever imagine doing or saying in otherwise. And I think this is also deeply painful. And this is, if this was the only thing that the cult did, it would still be, unforgivable, completely unforgivable. But we know that this is one of the least bad things that the cult does. So you understand how deeply disturbed what the cult does.
I dream about this day that one day they will see what they said and they will be like, I said this,
Yes.
I supported this, like,
Yes.
but I don't know if it will ever happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to thank you and to thank Adam for adding that, because I think that helped me put like into words what I feel. And it's just so heartbreaking to, my family are really good people. All of them, you can say about them what Adam said about my dad. They are all really sensitive. They are all really kind souls. And to hear them say those horrible things, I think that's why I went crazy and moved out. Like, I just couldn't bear seeing them. Those are not their words coming from their mouth. This is like indoctrination. They're so, so that's really good.
Yes, as people who stepped out of the cult, I think one of our major traumas, one of our major griefs is seeing our family, our friends, just gone. They're not them anymore. They're just different people, not people anymore. They're just zombies.
You want to go and do like, hey, are you there? Is there anybody there?
And they're there, but there's like walls around their mind and their soul that they cannot. They're trapped. They're trapped inside these walls, and I think this is also very painful.
And what you said to me, it sounds also a bit like chauvinistic thing, right? That they felt like you're a girl, you don't understand, you're a naive. Like the moment that it comes out, that's their way to. Yeah.
Another even like greater level of chauvinism in this conversation, like that I had with my family, was that they tried to put some sense into me by like basically threatening me with rape, with a Palestinian person wanting to rape me, and saying that that's all they want to do. And me as a woman, I need to know that I will be objected to rape, and then they say, then those are your friends, like those are the people you care about. All they want to do is rape you and murder you, and that's what fucking, I don't know, Muhammad said in the in the prophecy, whatever. So that's like another level of chauvinism, basically not listening to a person just because finding reasons not to.
Yes. And I want to just, I imagine this situation. You are surrounded by how many people? 10, 15 people, 20 people? How many?
Probably 10.
10 people who are all against you, and you have the courage and the connection to your own morality, to your own conscience, to stand in front of these people and to say things that you know will make them angry, that you know will make them disrespect you, that you know will make them be aggressive to you, towards you. And I just want to say, I think this is very, very courageous of you to be able to do this.
Thank you. Thank you. I was so afraid, like, before I did that, I was so scared. And I think also before I left for this family meeting, I told Adam, I think this is when I break and I speak for the first time. I'm like, I guess you also are familiar with this feeling that you can't keep it to yourself anymore. Like, those are your family. You have to tell them, like, can't you see what's going on? And I
must say that this holiday, I wasn't brave enough as I wanted to be, but my tool was to sing them a few of my songs instead of like speaking directly. And somehow the music covers it up in a way that
just so it's clear, one of the songs that you sang contained the words Free Palestine, right?
Yeah.
Which is probably the worst thing that you can say inside the Zionist cult is Free
Yeah,
Palestine.
I think
okay?
I wish someone would, take a video of it, like them sitting, like, and
That's amazing.
But I want to ask you, Sahar, this is like connected to what you said. Why did you decide that you wanted to participate in this series that we're doing? Why did you? What made you decide that you wanted to expose yourself publicly? Because I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this every episode of this series. What Sahar is doing now is dangerous. Okay, Elik and I at this point are fucking used to having our faces publicly saying that we're anti-Zionists and getting, I don't know, death threats and rape wishes and having all kinds of troubles. But Sal, you are not used to this and exposing yourself so publicly. Just so our audience understand, there is an element of danger here, but you still decided that you wanted to do it. So can you explain to us, to our audience, why you decided to do it?
Of course. There are many reasons. Some are more selfish than others. One of them that I can honestly say is that I feel ashamed of myself for not speaking sooner. The thing that kept me from speaking, of course, was the danger you described. And I am aware of the danger and I'm still very scared of it, But I feel like you have to speak. For the past year and a half, over a year and a half now, I felt every day this guilt of not doing enough. And I know that speaking to you in this series is not going to put, a check in that box. I still don't do enough. This doesn't save anyone. I am aware of that.
We also don't feel that we're doing enough.
It doesn't matter how much you do, you will never feel like you're doing enough because the system is so powerful that it's a drop in the water,
Even if you put my body in front of a tank, stopping it from going into Gaza, that's not enough. Like I can't stop an airplane, I can't stop tens of vehicles, so there's like you can't really ever feel like you do enough. But I just wanted to know that I spoke for now. That's one of the reasons. And also we spoke a lot now about the process of becoming anti-Zionist. And although I could tell you like a few anecdotes from my life about steps that I went through to get to being anti-Zionist, I can't like put a finger on something and say that's what made me anti-Zionist. But I think that if someone spoke to me the way that I spoke to you today, back then maybe it would bring me towards that sooner. And I think that every person can do this process. And I truly believe that, words can change you. They changed me, so they have to change people. I think those are the main reasons that I spoke to you.
So maybe we can finish by if you have a message to our audience, to anyone watching this conversation, anything that you want to say that you think it's important that people hear?
Yeah. I think one of the main things that I want people to do is to question the powers that they are subjected to. And even if you're from, I don't know, the United States or any other society and not within the Zionist cult, as we were, you are still subjected to indoctrination. And there are so many, ideas that you are taught to believe in. And I just want people to know that you should question them, and you should read, and you should try to watch people who you disagree with, try to listen to them. Whenever, when you listen to someone you disagree with, you argue with them in your brain. So try to listen to your arguments too. Try to see why you think the way you think about anything. I think it's really important. And like a person who does that is a person who steps out of just being, how it's called, like a soldier in your society. So
Very well said.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahar, for being with us. This was a very enlightening conversation, I think, for us, and also, I hope, for our audience.
Yeah. And if
Yes.
for our viewers, if you watch and you are having your processes in stepping out of the cult and you want to talk to us, also not just immediately for speaking out publicly, right?
Yes.
Also as a support group. It's
Yeah.
a bit like, being someone in the closet, and we need each other. We need to speak about it. I know for me, speaking with you is very helpful, speaking with Alon, speaking with Adam, and together we're stronger, even as a support group,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, isolation is one of the results of stepping out of the cult, and it's one of the weapons, the tools that the cult uses to punish us for daring to go against it. So if we can build solidarity, if we can build a community of people who are outside the cult and support each other, I think we are much more powerful, and we have much more chances to make a significant difference. Sarah, anything else you want to say before we wrap up this conversation?
I want to say to you, thank you for having me. And it was a really good opportunity for me to speak. And it really feels better to be able to share this. So thank you.
Amazing. So thank you to our audience for listening to us. Thank you again, Sahar, for doing this brave thing and speaking out publicly, stepping out of the anti-Zionist closet, as we say. Thank you, Elik. And
And thank you, Alon.
okay, so let more people step out of the cult. Let more people speak publicly against the cult, and free Palestine and down with Zionism. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.